This is The Shantones of the Caribbean by Jacob Bonner. In this, we'll discuss how it was founded, characteristics of the Shantones, subculture, the rituals, the language, our lineage, our marriage and how economy ties into it, religion, cosmology, subsistence, racism, ideology, gender, structure, and political organization as well. First, we'll talk about the founders. So the culture name is the Shantones. After the Civil War between the United States and the Confederate States began in the 1800s, a small tribe of 15 members from the lower region of Florida migrated south towards an abandoned island known as Shanto, 200 nautical miles off the coast. The youngest men of the tribe were trained by the elders in order to take reins over the leadership. Elected by a council of our parents, a group consisting of myself and 4 other men and women, we created a Declaration of Independence, an act of neutrality and secrecy in terms of all other governments. Now let's talk about the characteristics. First, we have a couple laws here. We have freedom of speech. People are free to say whatever they choose to say and in whatever outlet. We also have freedom of all land. No land can be properly owned by a certain individual, and is all upon the ownership of the people of the state. Every elected council must be at least half man, half woman. Now, knowing that there are 5 council members, it changes every election from 3 men, 2 women, to 2 women and 3 men. And we also have the freedom to peacefully protest. Some of our morals include that the mothers are the leaders of every family. Men and women take equal ownership of household responsibilities, and only organic food is grown on the island. Some norms that we have here: technology is not used during the daytime hours. There is no weekends. The community works ahead of time to take breaks for a month on end. Every person is paid for the amount of work time in which they work. Now let's talk about the subculture. The Shantones have people that have come to their islands that are of a defined group and do not go about life following their morals and their code of law. The Shantonian people lived quietly on their land for over 40 years without disruption. Then the group of people known to be Touristicas invaded the islands and broke the Shantonian laws of secrecy. The people operated large, fast, and loud watercrafts. They drank a lot of alcohol and mainly consisted of groups of men. The women of this tribe were considered unuseful in the eyes of men, and only aided when the food was brought out of the mobile refrigerator on the beach. They used their cell phones to broadcast every moment and overhunted our lands. Some of the taboos that we have is when you disrespect the women of the tribe, you thereby disrespect the leaders of the tribe. If men are to be convicted of this offense, they are sentenced to a week of public shaming. Intelligence runs through the youth of the civilization. The elders contain the wisdom. Now let's talk about some of our rituals that we have here. So let's talk about the dawn of the mating season. Prior to the mating season, men of the society create structural strength within their lives and build a house in order to attract a mate during the mating season. During it, in order to bring a new wave of intelligence for the society during the mating season, a shaman is raised to the top of the highest peak and is to pour the blood of the elders upon the mountainside overlooking the islands. After this has happened, once the shaman has released his mixture, the elders are then reincarnated into a form of energy that transpires throughout the community. The new generation is now being guided. The status change is that a new family is created. Now let's talk about some of the language in our culture. The phonemes include zo, ka, du, fa, tha, and sa. Some of the morphemes include yorato, which means hello, shan, which means power, tonya, strong, kurzo, good, duka, bad, yorachon, I love you, taru, let's party, zokapa, nice person, turisticas, tourists, alfantha, on alone and in secrecy. Some of the syntax rules include when speaking to a person in power, one must use the word shan before any name. This is to dignify the level of authority that person may have. You also must complete every conversation with taru, or let's party. Now let's talk about a little bit of the lineage in our society. So because our society emphasizes on the power and utilization of men, but more so women, this makes the Shantonians of matrilineal lineage, because the inheritance of power and culture is passed on through the females of the culture. Now let's talk about marriage. Marriage is very different between many societies, but in our society, Shantonians typically choose to marry those outside of one certain group. This makes them practice the marriage trait of exogamy. After marriage is concluded, or after the marriage ceremony is concluded, there's a couple rules when it comes to where you and your family reside. Normally, the people of the culture tend to move closer to the homes of the husband's parents after marriage. We can describe this as patrilocal residence. In the structure of the marriage, in the culture, men and women are forbidden from having more than one spouse. This makes them monogamous. Now let's talk about marriage and how that kind of ties into economy. After marriage, the family of the husband must shower that of the wives with gifts and show their appreciation for their daughter's hand in marriage. This is bride wealth. This can also be used to explain some of the parties that we throw for the brides. We throw huge bridal parties in which the husband's parents cover all of the costs and throw a massive party for the wife and the family of the wife. There's no such thing as divorce in the Shantonian society, although remarriage is only possible, but only with the dog of the deceased husband. Now let's talk about some of the families. Extended families are made up of independent nuclear families. Now let's talk about subsistence. So the form of the adaptation for the Shantonians was hunting and gathering. They were foragers. Food was acquired by means of women of the Shantonian village go out each night on the weekend to hunt for wild animals for the civilization. Meanwhile, the men gather fruits, nuts, vegetables, etc., and the children of the group fish in the nearby river every morning before school. Organizations of the community are vital. Communities are made up of usually about 3 to 4 families across the widespread valley connecting the Shantonian tribes. Those tribes, when congregated, usually consist of about 500 humans. Rights to resource. Every group of 3 to 4 families has access to a select part of the land in which only they can gather from. Internal differentiation. Different tasks of labor are separated based off of time needed to complete and the amount of technical ability that goes into each task. Women are most flexible, therefore make better hunters, while men are more technical and know where to pick the berries and when. Children understand where the best fishing spots are and make less noise when walking to the river, and which keeps the fish from swimming away. This provides good fishing. Let's talk about racism and ideology. So, racism is looked down upon within the society. Notable people within the culture have lost prestige and power, and parts of acts that were deemed racist. Race or ethnicity is not accounted for when doing surveys of the culture, for those within the group are all considered equal parts of the group. Racist acts are followed by consequences in this culture. These consequences may include loss of employment, lower availability to crops, and loss of owned land. This land is then distributed throughout the community. Immigration. Definitely. Culture accepts immigrants from all walks of life with open arms. Upon arrival, immigrants are connected with a host family for a child period of 6 months in order to get acclimated with life within the culture. During this period of time, the immigrant applicants must take entrance exams to see which positions in our workforce they best qualify for. Immigrants that may come with a criminal record are transferred to rehabilitation facilities for a total of 1 year rather than the host family. During this, they undergo the same process as all other immigrants and find which occupation is best for them. Threats from other countries and civil disorder. Our culture handles threats from foreign nations with diligence. A threat is only acted upon if the sake and future of our culture is at risk. We form no political alliances with foreign states, but stay civil in all matters. We have an elite trained military, but it is a reserve job with no active duty members. We handle civil disorders through rallies and peaceful protests, along with town hall meetings throughout all sovereignties. There is no formal police, yet each municipal town has a group of qualified citizens that enforce the law. Now let's talk about gender. The culture will not have any gender categories. Every member of the society has the right to choose who and what they are. Will there be strict gender rules? No, there will be no gender rules within the society. Both male and female must live equally and equally share the responsibilities of everyday life within the culture. Intersex people and homosexual people are treated equally within the society. Let's talk about the structure. The superstructure is that the society believes in many higher spirits that control all walks of life. All characteristics and all forms of life on this earth are treated with such respect. Humans live their lives by making these gods proud. The culture is matrilineal. This means that most of the power within the society comes from the women of the culture rather than the men. Infrastructure. Hunting and gathering is the main method of food accumulation and consumption. There are no specific gender roles for this task, as both men and women compete for most resources for their family. Environment. The environment on the island is often treacherous, with temperatures soaring well above 90 degrees Fahrenheit and short seasons of precipitation. Political organization. So at the top of the pyramid, you have the council members, which make up about five people, male and female. Then underneath them, you have the parents and the families of the council elected members. Then underneath them, you have the living and past council members and their families. And at the bottom of the scale, you have the commoners, or those that do not seek involvement in political activities. The Shantones consists of a tribe in which operates around a tiny chiefdom where the 5 council members and their families stay during the duration of their terms. Now let's talk about the religion and cosmology subsistence within the society. The name of the religion is phonenism. So, we are polytheistic and we believe in more than just one God. The story of the creation was humans were brought down from the stars before Christ in order to save Earth. Afterlife? The afterlife is the process of transcending into another living being on Earth, such as a cow, an ant, or even a tree. Our salvation. Salvation can be reached by having respect for all that is living and cleaning up our planet for the next generation. We have some acts of devotion as well. Every week, followers donate tree seeds or flowers for the shrine garden, as well as meditate with individual small groups in the garden. Our deities. Ancestors are looked at as the makeup of everything around us. There is a god for every season of the year, as well as the mountain, ocean, and desert god. Practitioners. Leaders of the individual meditation groups are called the shamans. They make up a group of people led by the head shaman. And our suffering. Karma is the main view of the religion. If you treat other things as you would treat yourself,